The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app.
Download now for free.
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
You want a show? We got a show. Welcome to the program as we join you weekdays, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Weekdays at 10 a.m. And you talk about a big show, we have that. Amari Jefferson scheduled to join us. Caleb, we might want to shoot him the link again, as it appears we have had crazy email problems lately at Off the Hook Sports, and I can't exactly explain that. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and shoot him another link, and we'll go ahead and get Amari on. But you look at Amari Jefferson, and he's clearly a monster pickup for Tennessee, not only because he's talented, not only because he has all the ability to play in the SEC, but Caleb, he very much fits a position that Tennessee has absolutely got to address.
He does. He was a very, very big pickup for Tennessee. Before we get started, I just want to send just on a somber note real quick. I don't know if you know, and I just feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't, that we're all thinking about everybody in LA right now. I just want to note that I have family and some very good friends who live in LA who are being affected by these wildfires right now. So I just wanted to send a shout out to them. I think this is the worst wildfire in LA history.
Yeah,
at this point.
I heard it's like really close to Santa Monica and close to downtown. You usually think about them being up in the hills. So
yeah,
it's not the case. So no, definitely no question about it. And we may have Snowmageddon coming up here momentarily. So everybody be very safe there. Go ahead and click like and subscribe if you would like to hear from Tennessee's biggest off-season pickup. And I'm not sure that there's anybody out there that might be bigger, considering the Vols need some help at wide receiver. It is Amari Jefferson, former Alabama receiver. Look at that guy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Congratulations. And you come back home to East Tennessee. I'm curious how that feels.
Man, it feels great. I'm excited to be involved. Just being from Tennessee, growing up in Chattanooga my whole life. I just see all the orange around and just see how much pride and love people have for the Vols. And man, I can't wait to experience it.
So Amari, I don't know I'm sure you do, but Chattanooga has a very rich history of producing some legendary Vols, not the least of whom was Reggie White. You think you can live up to that?
He's an NFL Hall of Famer. So, if I live up to Reggie White, then I had a pretty good career.
Absolutely. Hey, take me back, because you're getting to the point that football is kind of like a business, and it's more so earlier in your career with NIL, and I might have an NIL opportunity for you, but we'll talk about that later. But Amari, when did you first fall in love with football? Because it can turn into a business. Was there a moment that you recall that you looked at that sport and you're like, that's for me?
I think, man, just my dad coached high school football my whole life growing up. So just as a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, just really as far back as I can remember, being on the sidelines, being at practice during the summer, and, just watching like those guys and stuff like that, and really just falling in love with it. Just seeing all the stuff that goes into it. And then definitely just the Friday nights, just being around the atmosphere and stuff like that. There's nothing better than football in the South. So just getting to be around that, especially with my dad, as close as we are, and as much passion as he has for the game, that definitely went over into me. And so I think that's probably just when I started to fall in love with it, just being around him, being around the game, and just being able to be up and personal and close with it.
Hey, Caleb, if you don't care, let me jump in for 1 second.
Fine, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, your dad's a coach. Do you feel like you have maybe an advanced grasp of the game than other people you played with? I'm not asking you to pat yourself on the back, but I would think going home with a guy that knows ball every single night would be an advantage.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, my dad's been the biggest influence in my life. Just him knowing so much about the game and what it takes to get to the Division I level. I mean, just being a coach, you get to see guys, and from a young age, he kind of instilled in me like, if you're not scoring touchdowns, then you're not doing anything. So I was younger. I mean, it's always, if I'm not scoring, then I'm not doing anything. So for me, my whole mindset is when I get the ball, I'm trying to score, and if I'm not doing that, then I need to switch it up or do something else.
So basically, it's kind of the football equivalent, Amari, of I don't know if you've seen Talladega Nights, but if you ain't first, you're last. Amari, I want to ask you about your player profile a little bit, because obviously you're a wide receiver. Do you see yourself in Tennessee system playing more as a wideout, closer to the sideline, or playing more in the slot on the inside?
I mean, I think I can do both, really. I mean, I think I showed it in high school, my ability to play both in the slot and on the outside. I think really just whatever gives us an advantage as far as matchups and stuff like that, that we can take advantage of. But I really don't have a preference. I feel like I can play both. I feel like I have different skills that translates to both. So I'm excited to get on the field and kind of just show that.
Amari, what was the year like at Alabama? It wasn't what you signed up for, and I'm sure it was. I'm sure you were jilted a bit when you heard the coaching change.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different experience. Just going into a program that didn't recruit me. That guys I didn't really get to go through the recruiting process with, like the other schools, and then like Coach Saban and his staff. So it was definitely an adjustment, just trying to build relationships that, you kind of build in during the recruiting process that I didn't have a chance to, while also trying to, because football is, I mean, when you get there, it's a business. And so just having it being such a business and trying to build relationships and get comfortable with them as they get comfortable with me. It was kind of a difficult year, I'd say, just balancing those things. And then I had to get a hip procedure done. And that's why I kind of, just after a couple weeks into the season, I kind of felt like it was best for me to go ahead and get the surgery done. It was a minor surgery. So, I mean, I've already been off crutches and the brace for almost a month now. And so at the beginning of February, I should be good and we're starting running again. So.
Well, and you also got to charge it to Alabama's medical staff. So there you go.
Sure.
Save Tennessee a little bit of money. Go, Caleb.
Amari, could you talk a little bit for, not everybody's as familiar with that southern border of Tennessee with the Georgia and Alabama line right there, on how, even though it's in Tennessee, could you just tell people who may not know just how much of a presence other SEC schools have in that area? I'm sure Alabama and Georgia both are as much involved as Tennessee in the Chattanooga area, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just with Chattanooga being so close, I mean, Chattanooga's like 3-4 hours away from like 6-7 major programs. I mean, you think Clemson, Alabama, Georgia Tech, Vandy, Tennessee, Kentucky. I mean, South Carolina's 5 hours away. I mean, there's 6-7 SEC, ACC programs right there that Chattanooga's 3 to 5 hours from. So, I mean, I think just them being so close and just the presence they have with the SEC branding and ACC branding and stuff like that. I mean, it's definitely a big impact.
Amari, if you can look back over your career and your high school career in particular, because I know things didn't go because of the hip is the way you wanted at Alabama. When you look back, is there a game that you're most proud of your performance that you look back and you're like, I really answered the bell that day?
I think I had a lot of big time games.
Well, I know that, but I was wondering if there's one that stood out.
I think there's a couple. I think really the biggest game for me, I think, was going to Brentwood my junior year for the semifinals. Baylor hadn't beat Brentwood in the playoffs, I don't think, ever in school history. I think it was the farthest Baylor. I mean, making it to the semis was the farthest we had made it in 10 plus years at Baylor. And then I think it was kind of just like my coming out, not really my coming out party, because I had some good games before then, but definitely just like a stamp that on the kind of player I was, and that kind of big game on the road in the semifinals against, a George McIntyre led BA team who was really good. Took us down to literally the final inch. So I think that was really I'd say is my most proud game, just being able to go up there on the road and 25-degree weather and perform how I did.
Amari, so let's talk a little bit about your recruitment after hitting the portal recently. Were you looking at other schools, or once you transferred out of Alabama, was it you're going to Tennessee and that's that?
I mean, definitely there wasn't really too much thought about going anywhere else. I mean, I kind of knew where I wanted to be, and I definitely wanted to be a Vol from the jump, getting into the portal. It was just if we can make things work, and I'm super blessed that I'm going to be able to get back up there to Knoxville and, be a volunteer and stuff like that. I mean, there's definitely some other schools that kind of reached out and stuff like that, but I kind of already told them, I want to be in Knoxville. And so, I mean, they kind of respected that. So.
Visiting with Tennessee's newest receiver, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, Banks & Jones. It is Amari Jefferson. Amari, do you want to play baseball? You're pretty darn good on the diamond as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's been my lifelong dream to play with. I mean, it's really going to be about, time and time management and just really seeing like how the rest of my hip. I mean, because I got about a month left of rehab, so I definitely wouldn't be ready to go this season. But definitely just seeing how the rest of my hip, like healing and stuff like that goes, which we're on track and going smooth. But I mean, definitely. I mean, I've already had contact with the baseball coaches, and so I think it'll be something that when I get up there, we'll kind of figure out the scheduling and we can make it work.
So is it safe to say that you would like to, but you're not married to it? Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to. I mean, baseball. I mean, really, baseball is my first love. It's the first sport I ever played. Been playing it since I was 4. So I mean, definitely, I want to play both. It's really just about if we can make it work.
Okay, well, what position are you playing baseball? Help me with that.
Center field.
Center field. That's what I thought. Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you rather be an all-star center fielder for a Major League Baseball team, or would you rather be an all-pro receiver in the NFL?
I don't think that's a fair question because Juan Soto just got $700 million. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, if I'm an all-star in the MLB and I get $700 million, who doesn't want to do that?
Well, that's fair. I mean, $1 billion is $1 billion, and I just want to go ahead and warn you, I have an NIL opportunity for you, but it's not going to be $700 million.
Hey, I'll take it.
You go, Caleb. I love this guy.
Amari, talk a little bit about your familiarity, because you mentioned George McIntyre earlier, with so many guys that are either joining the team or already are on the team. Obviously, you were coming out of Chattanooga the same year Boo Carter was. And how familiar are you with a lot of the guys on Tennessee as you get set to join the team?
Oh, man, I mean, I'm familiar with a lot of guys. Definitely just playing them. Not only, I mean, me and Boo have been playing against each other growing up in Chattanooga since, I mean, we're 6-7 years old. But definitely guys like Caleb Beasley, Edwin Spillman, Ethan Utley, and then George McIntyre. I mean, I played against all those guys in high school. Don't think I ever lost any of those guys, but but no, definitely. I mean, they're all great players, and I can't wait to get up there and, be teammates with them.
Hey,
sorry, Dave, can I just ask this follow-up question real quick? Who's winning a fight, you or Boo Carter?
A fight?
Here. Yeah.
Oh, this fight?
Yeah, this fight.
Oh, no. Hopefully we never get into one, so we never got to figure out, but oh, no.
Can he cover you?
Well, I guess we'll see when I get there in practice. I mean, we've had our battles in high school and growing up and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty – I mean, it's almost about an even match, I mean, going against each other, so.
Let me ask you this. What's Boo like? Because Boo to me maybe kind of likes the attention, and maybe kind of doesn't mind being talked about in the media. How would you describe his personality?
Man, Boo a dog. He been a dog when we were younger. I mean, I can remember like when he played with Harrison and I played with East Hamilton, and then we moved over to another league and he played with the Chiefs. I played with the Bills. Like we were always meeting in the championship and stuff, and it was always like, man, why do I always see this one guy in the championship games and stuff like that? So I mean, I'd really say, man, Boo a dog. He don't back down from anybody, and he's always been that way. And he gonna get what's his, and he gonna work as hard as he possibly can to do that. So
So, Amari, what are your thoughts? How familiar are you at this point with Tennessee's offensive schemes and their systems? I mean, I know that Kalen DeBoer and Josh Heupel are both offensive-minded coaches, but I know they run different systems. How familiar are you with what Josh Heupel wants to run and what he's going to kind of expect out of you?
I mean, throughout my high school recruitment, just being able to talk to Coach Hype and Coach Pope and the different guys up there, they definitely like to get it spread out and throw the ball a lot, which is great for being a receiver. So we haven't really had those kind of in-depth conversations yet about what they specifically see from me or what they want from me. But I feel like we're going to have those when I get up there, and, I'm excited to get started.
Let me ask you this, Amari. I know you've got a disappointment to get to, and we're going to get you out of here. But where were you, and what do you remember about when you heard that Nick Saban was retiring after you had already signed with the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Yeah, so I was actually we were in baseball workouts in Baylor, and so we were lifting as a team because I think it was a Wednesday, and so we had team lifts on Wednesday. And I remember my head strength coach, he came over to me and he was like, Nick Saban just retired. And I was like, what? Like, are you sure? Like, my phone, like, making sure like it wasn't like no false news or anything. And, it turned out to be true. And so, I mean, that definitely was like a heart sinking moment just after I'd signed and going through the whole recruiting process and stuff like that, putting your trust in Nick Saban. It definitely kind of hurt just because I thought that was going to be the guy coaching me. But I think it worked out for the better. So,
Amari, can you talk a little bit about? I know you obviously everybody has their own reasons for going different places or transferring out, but what to you is the state of Alabama football right now under Kalen DeBoer? I know it's not. You obviously expected to play for Nick Saban. I know you were at Alabama during the transition period. What do you think their long-term prospects are as a program right now, given the change that's happened?
I think Coach DeBoer is a great coach. I mean, I think he's proven that everywhere he's been. It's definitely hard to come in and take over such a massive operation like a football program in the SEC. If you look at different guys, Kirby, Coach Heupel, it takes a couple of years to kind of get your players in and kind of, build in your culture and your system and stuff like that. I fully expect Alabama to, still be up there with the top. I don't know if you can say you expect him to be like Nick Saban because, he's the greatest of all time. But I definitely do expect him to still be, relevant and good and stuff like that. So.
Well, I'll tell you this, Amari. I know you got to get to the dentist, so I'm going to let you out of here. I would like to get in touch, and maybe we can do some things down the line. I mean this. I've covered thousands of prospects. I used to cover recruiting for ESPN Knoxville News Sentinel, but you're right up there with one of the most well-spoken, respectful guys that I've ever interviewed, and I just want to thank you for your time. It means a lot. Congratulations on this second opportunity, and welcome back to East Tennessee, my man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's can't wait to be involved, man. We gonna do some things this fall.
Yeah, I think you are, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amari Jefferson. How awesome is that? I'm going to tell you some thoughts, some takeaways from that interview. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. We didn't watch Amari run around, did we? We didn't watch him catch any balls, did we?
Last year?
Just now. When he was on the show. No. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that kid's a player. Kid's going to be really good. I say kid, young man. You can tell a lot of times by a guy's maturity level. As a matter of fact, I bet that I placed as much on maturity level. Now, you had to have a base level of talent as opposed to the camps I covered. And yes, a guy might run around and get open, but you don't know if he's matched up against the best guys all the time. And some guys don't want to be matched. But, this guy has a maturity level. So he knew. Here's what he did. He could have just not gone to Alabama, right? Because he said he knew a couple of weeks in that he wasn't going to stay there, right?
Right.
He could have dropped out of school. He could have done whatever he wanted to, but he stuck it out there. I didn't ask him about his academics, but I can tell you by talking to the guy that they were fine. Very, very, very impressed. And like I said, I've covered thousands, literally thousands of prospects. That guy right there was in the top 1% of any prospect. And I say prospect, technically he's a transfer, but he's just a year removed from high school.
Well, it's funny you said that because, I always think about that too. Provided they I've always said that, and my brother and I always talk about this, which is this. And I don't understand why NFL scouts still fall in love with potential. What I've always said with NFL, if I were an NFL scout, Dave, you know what I would do? Provided you meet a baseline of measurables, and you got to meet that baseline, right? You can't be below the baseline. You have to meet the minimum.
You can't be me or you running around out there.
Yeah, exactly. But provided you meet the baseline, I'm going to go for intangibles and maturity after that, always. And a great example, honestly, at the college level was, look, the most glaring example was T. Martin. T. Martin, that was a very mature thing he did to stick with Tennessee, wasn't it? After Peyton Manning was coming back, when he probably could have transferred in about 5-10 other schools.
Well, yeah, but he would have had to sit out a year, maybe pay his own way. So, that's a whole different.
But even committing to Tennessee when he knew that Peyton Manning was entering his junior year and he might have to sit for 2 years, knowing he wanted to develop, was a mature thing to do. You know what I mean? And so, I just say that because it revealed itself when T. Martin became the starter. He wasn't necessarily great his first 5 or 6 games, but you've talked about it. He was mature enough to where whenever they needed a play, he was able to make a play and he was able to rally the troops and keep them calm. And
do you realize I kind of replaying that interview in my head? Do you realize what that young man just said? He said his first love is baseball. He played it since he was 4. It'd be nice to make $700 million, but he's not married to playing baseball because he might be better. He didn't say this specifically, but he's not married to playing baseball because it looks like football is his best avenue. That's a level of maturity that a lot of guys at that age don't have. You walk in the door and you say, I'm playing baseball, Josh Heupel, and you're going to like it. But he's not that. There's also,
and I always it's funny. He's right. Juan Soto gets the $700 million, but the path to success in football is a lot more direct than it is in baseball. So you get drafted in baseball, you could labor in the minors and you may never get noticed after 2 or 3 years, no matter how good you are. You know that, Dave. How many guys have you covered that probably, had a lot of baseball talent, but then they labored in the minors? You get drafted, you're immediately on a football team. And you know this, if you're a high draft pick in football, teams are much more invested in making you work out if you're a high draft pick in football than they are if you're a high draft pick in baseball.
Yeah, really like that guy. Really like Amari Jefferson. And you will be hearing more from him on Off the Hook Sports. The UPS Store, Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses. Wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. The link is right down below. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. What do we got coming up next, Caleb? I'm having a little computer issue here.
We could stay on for a minute before our first break if you want. We could have a little fight over Boo Carter because Dave and I do not see eye to eye on Boo.
We don't. Let's do that in 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, why Caleb is completely wrong about Boo Carter and why he should just play defense. But Caleb's just going to go ahead and I don't know. I think he's going to put him on the crew team. 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your pair.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
Can we take care of a couple of housekeeping things real quick? So somebody that listens to our show, I think his name's Andrew Hutchinson, with some Hack Arkansas site, decided to take a shot at Caleb Calhoun. Well, he got put on blast by Dave Hooker this morning, as he called you quasi-media. Maybe we'll hire Andrew one day if he needs a job, which, given his writing ability, is probably the case. I will tell you one thing that you just don't do in the media, because there are struggles that you go through with sources and more. You don't rip other reporters. Now, if it's somebody that's just consistently bad, I see doing that, and Caleb probably has from time to time. But my personal philosophy, and there's one in particular out there that I think is a total fraud, but I don't say that, Caleb, and I got mad that somebody took a shot at you. Quasi-journalist. I mean, you write better than him. Probably make better money than him.
Well, let's also just debate the merits of it. The shot, because he found an old clip of me back in March of last year when I said that Jonas Adu played soft against Purdue, because, spoiler alert, he played soft against Purdue. And then he said, and then he quoted me saying that Adu got mentally taken out of the game and he's mentally soft. So he got wrecked on Vol Twitter. He saw Vol Twitter come at him and he couldn't handle that. And that's why he bolted in the portal. And I think that's a level that I think that it's that level of mentally weak. I stand by everything I said.
Yeah, there's literally nobody that covers Tennessee that would disagree with you.
Nobody. So he came back at me and said, that's some pretty harsh criticism, especially considering Adu's worst game just so happened to be against Zach Edey. Okay, let me just break this down real quick.
I will say this. I think Tennessee fans were too hard on him.
No.
Okay,
no,
that's fine.
No,
but
they were not. And let me just break this down for two.
You just don't take a shot at another media.
Let me just break this down for 2 seconds, because nobody expected him to win that battle with Zach Edey. Okay, what we all said covering that game was we didn't expect him to take himself out of the game. There's a difference. And if you have eyes, if you actually watch the game and don't look at the stat sheet, you would see Jonas Adu took himself out of the game. And guess what? He wrote that before Tennessee played Arkansas last week. Then Tennessee played Arkansas on Saturday. And with all the pressure on Jonas Adu returning to Thompson Bowling, what happened? He got destroyed by Igor Milicic on the boards, who, by the way, is not that strong.
No,
so,
Igor can't finish. Okay, well, let's move on. One other note, Tennessee basketball feeling good about itself. So I've always been able to line up assistant coaches to come on during the season. And so I tried to do that and got an email back from Tennessee basketball. I don't know his name, some dude. But anyway, he said we won't be able to handle this. An assistant coach who would like the promotion. So he never went and asked. And he just got the email back immediately. So the guy never went and asked, which is kind of funny because these guys would like the promotion. Remember Tony Jones? He did a ton of media, and now he's beloved in East Tennessee. He doesn't even have to be a coach anymore, and everybody loves him. But anyway, they were responded with the thank you for understanding. I responded with, I do not understand, nor will I pretend to. Because that is stupid. Because also, what you have to remember is right now, it looks like your basketball team may be a little disappointed. And if that's the case, then some fan equity would help. And we would have provided that. But Tennessee said, no, we don't need any of that.
I
mean, think about it. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to criticize when you have more information because you understand things.
So,
like Darlene Stone-Dubar is having a personal issue I don't want to get into. That's part of the reason he hasn't been a bigger factor. The fact that I know that makes me not say, boy, what a bust. You see what I'm saying?
I totally understand.
Gets me just ornery. I think I did
well, okay, it's funny you say that because it reminds me of, I just want to tell a quick story that Memphis Tigers football program one year hired a recruiting coordinator named Larry Porter, who was LSU's recruiting coordinator to be their head coach. And he decided to repeat the Nick Saban model at Alabama, which is, I'm not going to let anybody talk to the media. Freshmen only talk on fan day. And he was trying to sell this idea of, I'm doing the Nick Saban model at Memphis. I'm like, you do realize you can't do the Nick Saban model at Memphis because you're not at Alabama, right?
Well,
you do realize the rules aren't the same.
And you're not as good of a coach.
And you're not
Today's
as good of a coach.
tough question. Take a side.
Take a stand.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to cut you off. Today's
No,
tough
that's
question
okay.
brought to you by Work Trucks. Let's dive in. So Caleb got some people riled, and it showed up on the YouTube message board where there are some people that disagree with Caleb a lot because he's kind of out there. And but this one particular person I think was a Caleb fan, and he said, but Caleb, you've gone too far. Boo Carter may be a two-way player, maybe, but he certainly doesn't need to be moved to offense full time, which you claimed should be the case earlier this week. So personally, I have to be honest with you. Personally, I have to be honest with you. I don't agree with you, but I want you to go ahead and convince me otherwise, because I think Boo Carter will be Tennessee's best defensive back, not this year, but the next year.
Boo Carter is the deadliest player on this football team with the ball in his hands.
That's hot.
Yes, exactly. And Paris Hilton may be trying to give him a call soon once she sees him play. Okay. So I don't know if he wants Paris Hilton. I'm just saying she's old now. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm horrible. Boo Carter is the best player on this team with the ball in his hands. He's a deadly weapon. He's also going to not play cornerback. He'll play safety or nickel on the other side. He is not at the level of an Eric Berry on defense. I'm sorry. He's just not where he can just dramatically change the game by playing safety. He's not that caliber. Therefore, when you compare the two, he can make much more of an impact on this team playing receiver than he can playing nickel or safety. Much more. So, and also with Squirrel White gone, Boo Carter with his speed will stretch the field more than anybody else. And I think that Boo Carter would be insanely dominant on offense for Tennessee. I'm seeing, 1,000 yards, another 500 punt return yards, a potential All-American season. I'm telling you guys, I see raw talent. And people are going to be like, oh, but he's got to learn how to run the routes in the offense. Forget that. Just throw him some screens. Give him a screen, and he'll take a screen pass and turn it into 50 yards every time.
That's silly. If you're moving him to offense, he's got to be able to do it all. I mean, if you want to say, okay, make it a poll question. Boo Carter should play offense exclusively, defense exclusively, or both. And I think you and I would agree that if it's a both situation, which is probably the most likely based off who I've spoken to over there, that it's going to come down to basically 5, 6, 7, 8 plays that he's going to be really comfortable running, kind of like Princeton Fant was comfortable running the end around or the different things they did with him. But it's not as if Princeton Fant knew how to play the entire offense at the fullback position, right? So That's what they're going to kind of do, not to compare the players. But that's the scariest option to me. I mean, to me, taking away practice time, Caleb, from one side of the ball to maybe benefit the other side of the ball is the worst case scenario. I would rather them just go all in and say offense as opposed to splitting time. And I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. Frankly, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't mean that as a shot. We just disagree. But I think the worst thing they can do is make him less effective defensively because they have this offensive package in mind. That's worst case scenario, right?
Yes, I agree. That's why I think you play him on one side, and that one side should be offense. Because Dave, he's playing, I mean, in all seriousness, he's playing nickel on defense. I mean, when has a nickel ever been like the most impactful player on a defense?
Well, Eric Berry, I mean,
Eric Berry played safety. Difference.
Well, not for the Chiefs. He played in the box a lot. I mean, he played a lot in nickel. He even played weak side linebacker. And he walked up into the box at times in Monty Kiffin's system. I mean,
almost always in Monty Kiffin's system, he was walking up into the box. But also, we're talking about Eric Berry, a guy who was like insanely talented that could impact the game wherever you put him on defense.
Okay, and I don't go overboard comparing some players to other players, and I feel like that's one of the dumbest things we can do in covering sports. But I trust Fred White, and when I talked to Fred White, the former Vol, the first name that two names came out of his mouth, and he said a combination of Del Carter and Eric Berry. Now, if he's that good,
a combination of just the best defensive backs of all,
if he's that good,
this guy's a combination of Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
He's with a little Victor Wembanyama thrown in. But if he's that good or even approaching that, you wouldn't move him at all, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't move him at all, but I can't say he's that good. Okay.
That would be like Reggie White to offensive guard.
That's oh my God, Austin Powers came to mind. I want $1 bajillion. Okay.
Work Truck's all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Truck saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. Processes quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. I just hope that Boo Carter hasn't held them hostage and say, I got to play offense. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app-hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, anything special like cranes, dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you to get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, Work Trucks, Clinton Highway, downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com, Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Now, I think you would agree with me that if he went to the coaching staff and demanded to play offense, that would set a pretty scary precedent. And then you almost just have to say no based off principle, right?
Only if the coaching staff didn't promise him he'd play offense when they were recruiting him. At that point, he has a little bit more leverage. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation we're talking about. Now, here's the way I look at it, Dave. Now, and I'll ask you, because it was definitely different during the early days of Tennessee, but I think the Josh Heupel system, we have to look at this a little differently. On the line, offense and defensive lines, you would largely say oftentimes, like, if someone can play both at a high level, you're putting them on the defensive line, right?
There's no question. Philip Fulmer used to say the last stop before the bus stop is the offensive line, because he would take like Cozy Coleman and move him to offensive line. Obviously, Cozy Coleman was athletic enough to do it, but if you didn't make it there, you were headed to the bus stop. Literally, you would get a bus ticket and go home.
I could see that. Exactly. So I think it's the flip, honestly, with secondary versus receiver. I actually think in Josh Heupel's system, receivers like defensive line, secondaries like offensive line. You start with seeing if you can play receiver, and if you can't, you move over to the secondary. Now I know that's old school. People were like, no, the people who play receiver. I remember some people used to be like, the ones who play receiver are the ones who couldn't play in the secondary because they can't tackle. That's not the case in this day and age in football. Okay, that's just not.
Well, no, it's I always. Is you don't have hands. You don't catch the ball well is why you play defensive back instead of receiver. But that's an oversimplification. I've covered football for 25 years. I'll tell you the difference between most defensive backs and most receivers. It's the most defensive backs. Yes, they can't catch usually, but they're twitchier. They're just a little twitchier. And, you can be a long strider. You can be fast. You can play at a different, not to say you're not fast twitch, but you can play at a different style at receiver. If you're not a fast twitch kid, you are not going to play well in the secondary. It's just not going to happen.
No, that's a very good point. You're not. And
I think Boo Carter's a fast twitch kid.
But also, I mean, I just think you have more value now if you're elite and you can do it playing offense and defense in between the secondary versus receiver. Now up front, take the defensive line. But in the secondary, I am more, if you can do both at a high level, I think you put them at wide receiver over defensive back. And I think Boo Carter can do both at a high level. And I think he could probably be a better receiver than he is a defensive back.
All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Sports Treasures is having a baby. Congratulations, Zach. We're thinking of you, buddy.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Amari Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
So when I started this thing at Off the Hook Sports, one of my most important goals was to work with good people and only promote the people that I believe in. So you've probably seen some advertisers come and go, maybe gambling sites. Okay, but I want to tell you a little something about city heating and air conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. But I can just tell you that my mom got an assessment from another place before she knew I was working with City Heating and Air, and they said, whole new unit, it's going to be like $8,000. Well, City Heat and Air comes out, and they said, no, you just need this part. It's like $150. City Heating and Air Conditioning, integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our friends at Double D Piping, fire protection contractors providing around-the-clock service, protecting their customers' lives and properties at all times. It is time for this day in Tennessee sports history.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Now talk to me, Goose. What do we got this day in Tennessee sports history?
On this day, all the way back in 1982, Tennessee basketball shocked the Kentucky Wildcats. They were unranked. They welcomed number 3 Kentucky to Knoxville, and they beat them 70-66. That spurred a tie. They ended up tying the SEC regular season title that year with Kentucky. They were led by Dale Ellis, who was averaging 21.2 points a game. And truth be told, Dave,
that's still so bizarre at my particular age to see him in the NBA. As I was learning basketball, and I thought, man, I could bet he was an incredible shooter at Tennessee. And then when I got in the business and I did my research, it's like he's a back to the basket player.
He was. They didn't have the 3-point line during that time.
I think they had his very last year.
His very last year? No. When did college basketball? Let's just look this up real quick.
Nevertheless, he didn't shoot outside.
Yeah. So they instituted the 3-point shot. 86-87 was the year they put it in.
Okay.
So it was after he left. So here's the question. If Dale Ellis was the sharpshooter he was in the NBA and college basketball had the 3-point shot in the early 80s, you think Tennessee could have won a national title? I mean, they were.
No, but I'll tell you this. I think he would be viewed as the second best player behind Bernard King in Tennessee basketball history. And right now, I think he's behind Dalton Connect. I think he's behind Bernard King. Arguably behind Chris Lofton. I mean, he's kind of muddled. But if he had a 3-point game, I think you're talking he's clearly the second best player behind.
On pure abilities, if you're doing a starting 5 all time at Tennessee, you're putting him in your starting lineup with Bernard King. You're doing
but not if he's the post guy, because I can get a better post player. But
I'm going spacing. I'll just have 2 wings, Bernard King and Dale Ellis. I'm going floor spacing. Okay. Who's going? No, as a matter of fact, Bernard King, Dale Ellis, Chris Lofton, and Allen Houston. I'm going to play small. I'm just going to have those 4 guys on the perimeter and then give me 1 big guy. Who's stopping me?
Okay. My guy Caleb Calhoun is suggesting this one, and we'll see where it goes. It's What the H, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
What the? What was he thinking? Release the hounds. The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All right. James Franklin is complaining about Notre Dame's independence. And let's face it, Notre Dame has the best setup in the world. They get all the money from their own television contract, and they pretty much make the athletic schedule. So, should Tennessee or any other school think about leaving the SEC? When Caleb brought it up at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, it was bizarre to me. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought in 5 years, I don't know that you're going to have this intense conference pride. So even if you would make more money, Caleb, by leaving a conference, I still think there's some conference pride from the Big Ten and the SEC. You want to be in it. You don't want to get out. And that's the way things are. But, it really feels like we're going to a super conference. And I don't know how conferences now like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to deal with that. And it's not the craziest idea. I'm not saying I would do it if I were Tennessee. But could Alabama be the Notre Dame of the South? Just with a few less teeth. But, Caleb, I don't know that Tennessee could do it, but it's not crazy to think of another school doing it. In particular, if you took a team that's in a pitiful conference, like what if you're BYU? Could BYU strike up their own TV deal and be an independent? Do they get enough respect? They're not as far off as you might think.
No, they're not. As a matter of fact, BYU has one of the most international followings because somehow Mormonism is growing across the world, even though it's a uniquely American religion. So like there's a lot of like Mormon communities across the globe that like follow BYU football for like Mormon pride, almost the same way people follow Notre Dame for Catholic pride back in the day.
Wives?
That is a staple of the religion, but that like not all Mormonism is not one entity. Like,
because I just want to tell you, one may be too many. You don't need more than one. All right, go ahead.
So James Franklin was quoted as saying, I think everybody should be in a conference. I think everybody should play a conference championship game, or no one should play a conference championship game. I think everybody should play the same number of conference games. Let me get this part out of the way first. Between me and you, Dave, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I think there's a little bit of resentment that Notre Dame outsmarted the rest of college football in this way.
No, there's no question there's resentment. Every single president, absolutely every single school president, every conference commissioner, they hate it. Timothy says, I think Tennessee should go to the Big 12 or ACC. Easy way to get to the playoffs. Not crazy. And the SEC is not going to be dominant like it was. Timothy, you're right. I mean, it would be an easier way to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, so let's break down exactly what happened. And I saw this in August. I foresaw this happening in August, and it came to fruition. Not one team that won a conference championship game is in the Final Four. So Notre Dame, people thought with this 12-team playoff, you got fans be like, with the 4 conference champions getting automatic buys, Notre Dame is going to be forced to join a conference, aren't they? And then Notre Dame said, no, you know what? We'll skip the bye. We'll just play a first-round home game. We don't really care about winning a conference. We're not going to play for this bye. And now here they are sitting in the 14 playoff, and everybody who said that is like, well, wait a minute. You now have to join a conference. I'm like, well, or Notre Dame realized that the stupidity of having to play an extra conference game to win a title is not worth the bye's not worth that. So they outsmarted everybody. So when I look at Tennessee, here's the thing, Dave. If Notre Dame wins the national title, they take that $20 million and they put it in their pocket, and they don't have to share it with anybody. Okay? If any other school wins that national title, they take that $20 million and they have to share it with the rest of the conference. And so Tennessee should absolutely consider leaving because let's be honest, there are subsidizers and subsidies, I guess, in the SEC. Tennessee is one of the schools that subsidizes other schools in the SEC.
It's a great point. There's no question that Tennessee is making Vanderbilt, Mississippi State money. There's no question.
No question. Tennessee is losing money now at this point by being in the SEC if they could strike their own TV deal, particularly when Tennessee is one of the few schools, Dave, that is a giant brand in basketball, honestly, for a football school. Probably the biggest basketball brand of all football blue bloods. I don't know if you would agree with me on that, but I think they have a lot to sell. Mm-hmm. They are brand in baseball now. The Lady Vols are a huge brand. I would honestly see the SEC would never do this, but I would go independent in football and find a lesser conference that'll accept you in every other sport and let you be independent in football. That's exactly what Notre Dame does. Give the ACC a call. Be like, hey, let us join you in every sport but football. And the ACC would do it because the ACC is on its last leg. And call it a day. I'm dead serious. They should do that to negotiate their own TV deals in football. And Tennessee's not the only school that could look into this, David. Let me just run down the list. I want to know if you agree with me. Schools that could do it more than Tennessee or on Tennessee's level. You said Alabama. I'll say Texas. Is that fair, Texas?
Sure.
What about Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I think all but like 4 schools could pull it off.
I think there's a top.
Okay, let's do it the reverse way. Okay. Vanderbilt couldn't make it, right?
No, they could not make it.
Mississippi State couldn't make it.
Nope.
South Carolina couldn't make it.
Nope. Arkansas couldn't make it.
Arkansas couldn't make it.
Ole Miss couldn't make it.
I I'm 50-50 on there, but I'm 60-40 with you. Go ahead.
I don't think Auburn could make it.
They got more money down there with that Yellowwood guy than you know. You seen the Yellowwood signs?
No, I haven't.
Seriously, I mean, he sells lumber. And I've been told he has just a
Kentucky couldn't make it, by the way. You can't. No one can do it in basketball. It's not possible in basketball.
Okay. What other teams could do it? Brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Just stop by, get a free Celebrate 98 book or Off the Hook Sports t-shirt for saying hello. Get $500 off your spa that includes everything: cover, steps, lift. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
Have you seen the latest TriStar?
Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas. Your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount. Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Okay, let's be serious for a moment. Do you really think that anybody would do it? That anybody, any significant Big Ten or SEC team, now I'm not including the teams in the other conference because they're all still jockeying for position. They might move to another conference. But do you think any team in the Big Ten or the SEC would willingly say, we're giving up the conference money to either be an independent or play a lesser schedule to make the playoffs easier?
Yes. And here's how. You and I have talked about this for a while. You've told me they can't do it, and I agree, but I think they're going to do it. If they do a super conference, the teams grandfathered into these leagues are protected. So, if the SEC and Big Ten break off and do like an ALNL, Vanderbilt's going. Vanderbilt's going to be in the ALNL, as is Northwestern. And do you think when Ohio State and Michigan and Tennessee and Alabama and Texas spearhead this breakoff, do you think they're going to be okay with having to still subsidize Vanderbilt, Northwestern, and Illinois?
Probably not. Yes.
So, yeah, I think they would go to the SEC and the Big Ten and be like, hey, if you guys don't kick these people out, we'll just break off from you guys. We'll all go independent, and we'll all form our own league. And, people talk about conference autonomy. No one talks about team autonomy within the conference.
The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Where does Josh Heupel rank among the four coaches in the college football playoff semifinals? The answer might surprise you. banksandjones.com. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas. Your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Caleb, during the break, is like sending me a message. Hey, we gotta get this topic and this topic in. Well, you're the one that won't stop talking in the last hour.
Oh, how dare me talk on a talk show?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. All right, so it is time for the stat of the day. Stat of the day is brought to you by our fantastic friends at Peacock Hydration, South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peacock Hydration. They got the patch. You can order online, peacockbhydration.com. I just realized that when I do that, it kind of looks like I'm getting ready to take a hit of smack. Which I'm not. All right. What do we got? Stat of the day.
So
do you know smack? Do you wear that's heroin?
I thought it was. Oh, it is. For some reason, I thought it was crack, but you're right. It's heroin. Okay.
What was that? Somebody help me on the message board. What was that movie about two undercover cops that were like DEA agents, and they fell in love, and they were a couple, and they had to do heroin in front of the dealer, so the dealer believed them, and they got hooked on heroin. It was a really good movie. Sorry, Caleb. Stat of the day.
Sounds like a really sad movie, but okay.
It was very sad. I think one of them died. Go ahead.
All right. So, Tennessee's winning streak after losing to Florida the other night and stopped at 14 games, which goes down as tied for the fourth longest winning streak in men's basketball history. They had winning streaks. It's behind winning streaks that were set in 2018, 2019, and then 1914, 1915, 1916, 1917, and 1922, 1923.
We remind you, Hound Dogs of Knoxville, champions look good in orange. I get to stop by there today, hdknoxville.com. It is time for 4 Downs, and it's brought to you by our fantastic friends at Sports Treasures. I'll tell you more about Sports Treasures here momentarily, but I know they're having a baby. Congratulations, Zach.
4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, here we go. Which of the semifinal coaches would you take over Josh Heupel, if any? So, Caleb, I want you to create that as some sort of poll question, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Actually, I've got a way to do it. Let's go ahead and get it rolling. Cooper Mays, who's out in Arizona, it was nice enough to join us live here so that he could say,
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Oh, thanks, Coop. Appreciate you. Can you say one more thing? Actually, 4 more things?
Coop here. First down.
All right, James Franklin. Would you take James Franklin over Josh Heupel?
No, I wouldn't.
That's hot.
James Franklin, I'm going to give him credit, but I'm going to take credit away. James Franklin, I will say this. He is your classic case of a guy who does everything right running a program off the field, but God, makes such stupid decisions on the field. I don't know if you watched that Boise State game last week, Dave, but they were trying to keep Boise State in it because they kept throwing the ball when all they had to do was run it to maintain that 3-touchdown lead. And it's like, that's typical James Franklin. His in-game management would make you just want to pull your hair out. I wouldn't do a football IQ if Tennessee had James Franklin and we were covering Tennessee. I would do a James Franklin IQ each week.
Nice. All right, so let's go. James Franklin, by the way, took a shot after he said that it should be consistent across college football. Let me see.
We talked about that last segment about how they said.
I know, but listen. Former Notre Dame star Golden Tate, who's from Tennessee, said, quote, "Keep our name out of your mouth. Go Irish."
Okay, well,
have you ever noticed that Golden Tate sounds a little like Golden Taint?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Would you take Marcus Satterfield over Josh Heupel? Some people may not know who Marcus Satterfield is.
Wait, sorry, and I wrote that wrong. It's Marcus Freeman. I don't know
Marcus Freeman. Yes, that's what I thought. Notre Dame's head coach. I was trying to figure out who Satterfield was. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame's head coach.
No, I wouldn't. I'll say this. My opinion of Marcus Freeman really improved after watching that Notre Dame Georgia game, because I'm just going to be honest. He outcoached Kirby Smart. That's why they won that game. He had that's one of the best game plans I think I've ever seen a program put together. Georgia was the better team. Notre Dame just was ready for everything they were going to do.
To me, Marcus Freeman is half of what Josh Heupel is. So what are the two main calling cards of Josh Heupel? Culture and offense, right? And now we're kind of wondering about the offense a little bit. But until we just see them fall flat on their face, I'm not willing to dismiss his offensive prowess. But I will say this. I think that Josh Heupel is significantly better from a schematic standpoint, and they're both culture guys. They have good culture in the locker room. But I just don't think Marcus Freeman is as good of an X's and O's coach as Josh Heupel. We'll see.
Well, he game planned for Georgia a heck of a lot better than Josh Heupel did. We can say that much.
Yeah. Seemed like a tired Georgia team to me, though, for some reason.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, Coop, you got to bring a little bit more energy. We're going to have to get him some coffee or like a pre-workout. Ryan Day, Ohio State.
No. The fact that Ryan Day hasn't won a national title yet. Yeah.
You've got to take Ryan Day.
No, not taking him. I could win with that talent at Ohio State.
But he's recruiting the talent, Caleb.
You're not recruiting the talent at Ohio State. You're getting the talent. You're at Ohio State. They're the only major program in the state of Ohio. The talent is falling in your lap. Okay? You're not doing anything.
All right.
That's like that's like saying Butch Davis recruited that elite Miami team in 2001. No, he didn't. Those players all just fell in his lap.
Okay. You haven't covered recruiting nearly as much as me. It takes a little bit more work than maybe you think. Sports Treasures carrying over 5 million sports treasures before we get to fourth down. So much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. Go to Facebook. Follow on Sports Treasures TN. Sports Treasures TN. What down, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Darn right, you're all SEC. All right. So the last one is Steve Sarkisian at the University of Texas. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that both are similar, but Steve Sarkisian right now would have to be considered the better coach. And Caleb, I don't see how you could possibly argue that.
You mean besides the fact that Steve Sarkisian has a personal issue that you have to worry about?
It hasn't cropped up.
All right. I probably am leaning your way with Steve Sarkisian right now. I am. I think Steve Sarkisian, for two reasons. One, I think Steve Sarkisian, you're not going to figure out his offense because he actually runs a pro-style offense. So it's not like you figure it out. It's that you've got to get the Jimmies and Joes to stop it, pretty much. Whereas I think there is a fear with Josh Heupel that his offense is going to get figured out and that he's not going to adjust. I think Steve Sarkisian is a very, very brilliant mind at quarterback, as a quarterback's coach. No, I take this back. I'm reversing all this. I'm taking Josh Heupel over Steve Sarkisian. I am.
Why?
Because Steve Sarkisian has underachieved each year at Texas, I think, including this year, by the way. Getting to the kind of football playoff Final Four, that's based on who he got to play. But he had a team on Georgia's level of talent, and he lost to Georgia twice in the regular season. And so I'm not as high as you are on Steve Sarkisian. So
well, I wouldn't say I'm high on him. I wouldn't say I'm high on him. I really only think, to be quite honest with you, there's
Who's the best coach in the
Well,
college football
that's what I
playoff
was gonna
period?
say. I mean, well, let's not do that. Let's do this. And please fill in the message board because we could use your help on this. By the way, the poll question that is up and at him, where does Josh Heupel rank among semifinal coaches? Best, middle of the pack, worst. Right now, middle of the pack, 75%. Worst, 25%. Kirby Smart's an elite coach, right?
Yep.
Who else is an elite coach? I mean, Saban's gone. We thought you and I both were wrong about Brian Kelly. I thought he would be elite to this point. I don't like anybody really off the Alabama tree. I like Todd Monken, but he's in the NFL. If he ever came back to college, I think he would be an elite coach. I'm having trouble coming up with even 5 names that would be elite coaches, and I'm even going to the NFL, Caleb. There seems to be a bit of a vacuum.
I think there is. And Heupel's definitely lost his luster from a few years ago. Lincoln Riley's nowhere near where he was. Okay, so are any of the 4 in the Final Four elite coaches? I mean, someone's going to be considered elite once they win a national title. I mean,
Right.
But we'll say this. Like, did we miss, like, maybe the one I'm going to fall back on, maybe we misread Marcus Freeman. We'll have to see, but like if he wins a national title, Dave, I mean, we may have really misread him. And
yeah, and I don't even think you and I were working together when I read him, and I read him as this guy's not going to have success because I just thought the players were too happy that he got the job. That always scares me. Do you remember how they cheered when he got the job?
Oh yeah. All right, let's rank him real quick.
I mean,
let's just rank the playoff coaches real quick.
Nobody cheers when they've got a super tough warden in prison.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
I mean, nobody's. If people are cheering for you and you're in an authoritative role, it means you're not very authoritative.
All right. So, Marcus Freeman or James Franklin, who's better? Who would you hire?
I would. I'm so down on Marcus Freeman. I think he's going to get blown out in the semifinals. So I would take James Franklin, but I've got him right about the same.
James Franklin runs a program. Okay, on the other side, Steve Sarkisian, Ryan Day. Who are you taking?
I would take Steve Sarkisian.
All right, now so then Steve Sarkisian versus James Franklin. Who are you taking?
Well, I'm not gonna do it like that. I would take Sarkisian. Here's how I would rank them.
So you think Sark is the best coach in the playoff?
Yes, I think it's Sark, Day, and
Freeman,
barely Freeman. If I could do a tie for third, I would probably do that. What about you?
I'm going to go. See, this is so hard for me, but I'll probably, because I'm not a huge believer in any of them, but look, by default right now, I'm having Marcus Freeman as the best coach in the Final Four. I think doing this at Notre Dame is way harder than doing it at any of the other schools. Notre Dame's an impossible place to win at. And he just beat Georgia by out-coaching Kirby Smart. So I got Freeman, Sark, Franklin, and I got Day at the bottom. I'm sorry. I do. I think Ryan Day has massively underachieved to this point. Not having a national championship and losing to Michigan 4 years in a row stands out to me when Ohio State has such better talent.
Well, you throw that out to Ohio State fans, and they're going to tell you he's 4th out of 4.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no question about it. So, yeah, you bring up a very good point. Oh, we've got some breaking news that is absolutely stunning. Can you hang tight? Give me 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, I mentioned we had breaking news that will lead us to today's tough question, as Mike Keith has been hired as the voice of the Vols. Do you like the hire? Today's tough question is now, and it's brought to you by our fantastic friends at Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, let me go ahead and tell you my thoughts on Mike Keith. I think through my travels, and oftentimes I was available on Sundays and would be driving around or traveling back from covering a game on Saturdays and goodness knows where. I've heard a lot of NFL broadcasters, heard a lot of college broadcasters. I will go ahead and tell you that I believe Mike Keith is right up with the absolute best. And the poll question that I have up is a little bit of a personal one. And the poll question is this. Do you like the Mike Keith hire? Yes, best fit. No, rooting for Wilkerson, talking about John Wilkerson. No, just no is 15%. So right now about 45% say yes, best fit. No, rooting for Wilkerson gets 38%. Just no, 15%. Well, just no is the wrong answer because this is a great hire. I'm in the no, rooting for Wilkerson because he's a very close friend of mine, and I thought he should get the opportunity. I think everybody needs to realize for a second what John Wilkerson has done for the University of Tennessee, and then we're going to move to Mike Keith. And I think this is an incredible hire. John Wilkerson hasn't gone to a lot of Tennessee basketball or football games, despite the fact that you have heard him on the radio at the pre- and post-game show and halftime, because he's in a studio. I wanted John to get it. I will tell you, I spoke to John about it, and he was pretty much mum's the word. I thought he would get it. Now, I was told that there was a guy they liked that is currently at Mississippi State. I don't know his name, but that had Tennessee ties. And that's who I was told they would likely hire. That's not the case. They go with Mike Keith. I think John Wilkerson would have absolutely done as equal and as good of a job as Mike Keith. I think it's neck and neck. I'm not going to take sides between the two. Personally, I was rooting for John, but I have great respect for Mike Keith. And I'll go ahead and tell a story one time. I didn't know we had a live mic and Mike was on. Mike Keith was on with us, me and Jimmy Himes. There was a live mic, and I was joking around when the Ravens beat the Titans. And I said, well, let's play it, because we were playing like actualities, like play-by-play calls. And it got a little uncomfortable. So I have a dry sense of humor. And I said, man, I feel like we're just playing these to rub it in. And he heard that. And I did another show with him a couple of weeks later. And every question I asked him was yes or no. You know, what do you think about Tennessee's chances this year? Yes. It's because he was mad at me, and he should have been. I was a jackass. I apologized to him. I remember it was very intimidating. This is like 2002 or 3, so I was in my late 20s. And I called him, and I just said, I apologize. I have a dry sense of humor. That didn't come across right, and I'm very sorry. And he said, well, you're a man for calling and apologize. All good. So, I mean, that to me is a stand-up dude. He could have just hated me forever and had every reason to do so. So that's my own little personal story. I wouldn't say we're friends. We don't hang out, but, when I see him, shake his hand, and I'll tell him straight up, and I'll say it right here. I think he's absolutely one of the very best play-by-play guys, and I'm incredibly picky. I think he is elite, but I think the same about John Wilkerson as well. So I can't help but feel for John a little bit because I thought he had a good shot at it, and I thought he was a natural hire. But this is a great hire for Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you. I mean, having had John Wilkerson on the show, I mean, he's just got the great natural radio voice. It would have been great to see him kind of move into that. And I was kind of shocked Mike Keith took this job, to be honest with you, because
I was too. I wrote a column about it, and I didn't even think he'd be in play because there's only 32 NFL jobs, and they're very coveted.
Yeah, and you have to do one game a week, whereas now Mike Keith has to do football and basketball. I mean, I guess the pay must be bigger. I wouldn't think it is, though, for an NFL radio job, but maybe it is. Or maybe it's a passion for him. Maybe he graduated from Tennessee, so maybe he just loves Tennessee so much that, like...
Oh, he definitely does.
Maybe it's just kind of a dream for his. I'll tell you this, and I'll just say this as a Titans fan, straight up, full disclosure, everybody knows I'm a Titans fan. You're hired by the organization to be the broadcaster, as you know, Dave.
Yes.
I think there's a possibility that nobody wants to work for Amy Adams Strunk right now because she has been so incompetent in how she's like run that organization.
Now that's good stuff. If you want to sit there and be a part of a losing franchise, I mean, that wouldn't be at the top of my list. Like, I wouldn't take $100,000. I wouldn't take $1 million less. I don't know what Mike's getting paid. I wouldn't take a lot less, but I would take some less to not be a part of that bleep show.
Yes. So let me just tell you what they've done since she took over as owner. Because, by the way, you know this, Dave. When you fire
into the Titans, nobody cares about.
Well, no. I'm just going to say this is just a quick thing because it's like your job could be on the line because when you
company, my job's on the line.
No. So in 2022, she sided with Mike Vrabel and fired the GM John Robinson. Then in 2024, she sided with Rand Carthen, fired Mike Vrabel. This year, she let Rand Carthen pick Brian Callahan, last year, then this year, she sided with Brian Callahan and fired Rand Carthen. What I'm saying is one person within the organization keeps getting fired, and she never cleans house. And I don't think Mike Keith wants to be a part of that, knowing that the Titans are going to be losing for periodic periods of time going forward. And your job may be on the line because she fires everybody like the minute she's unhappy with one person.
She's not going to fire Mike.
I think...
No, but he does a lot of community service work. You're not going to get mad and fire your play-by-play guy.
She's such a low IQ individual, she might. But anyways, the point is, I think Mike I think he sees more excitement for the Vols than he does for the Titans, and I think he's willing to take on the greater workload to cover the Vols because of that. And I think that is a big... I think that's really what stands out here is that I felt like being an NFL job is just that's the greatest gig. You have to do 16 games a year. That's it. It's the best job.
No. It's not quite that easy. I mean, he worked 40-hour weeks. He had to do and with the digital age coming, he did a lot of interviews that they posted on their website. He did a lot that, but before then, he spoke to specific. I'm not saying it was a hard job. It's not like he was out laying bricks, but
I know you're making it sound like.
He's not out there, but pounding the pavement, but trying to sell, encyclopedias.
He's basically kind of being a politician when he's not doing those 16 games. He's going out kissing babies, saying hi, cutting ribbons, and
you're meeting with. You do the same thing that I do. You're meeting with clients, and that's what he does. I don't think he was directly a part of sales, but I guarantee you when Mike Keith walks in the door, and let's face it, the Music City Miracle elevated him in his career to where everybody in the NFL knew who he was, as opposed to everybody in Tennessee, right?
Yes, and by the way, just saying the phrase "miracle" as a broadcaster really elevates you. Al Michaels, Mike Keith.
It does. It does. Well, so, but yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, it's a loss for the Titans because I think that with the ties he has, it will probably cost them a major advertiser or two. That, along with the fact that they're run like a crazy show. And I will say this too. It is an increased workload, but what if they back off the during the week stuff? What if you just have to, I'm just throwing this out there. What if you have to meet with 3 or 4 boosters instead of 8 or 9 advertisers with the Titans? I mean, that you could actually lighten the workload. And I don't know about you, but if you give me a choice between working an 8-hour day, being in a boardroom and meeting with different people, boosters or whatever, and sleeping in and calling a basketball game on a Tuesday night, I'll take the latter.
Yeah, but see, for me personally, I wouldn't be sleeping in because there's so much of a workload when you call a game because you have to study like thoroughly every player on the other team. You kind of got to know them by heart by the time like football happens.
Takes a couple hours. I mean, I've done it. I mean, it's not as hard as.
And by the way, what if the team has really messed up? So I'm very bad with facial recognition. It's my big weakness. I'm not good at telling people apart, and it doesn't matter the race. It's not white, black, Asian, whatever. I can't tell people apart.
You say all Caucasians look the same. You say that all the time.
I've never said that, Dave. No, but
Asians look the same.
Like sometimes when I'll get like, given what we cover, I will sometimes get athletes of African American descent mixed up, and I'll be like, guys, I do this. I'll just beg my black friends. I'm like, guys, I do this with white people too. I promise you, I'm not just doing it with black people. I do it with every race possible. Okay. I'm really bad with facial recognition. So if you are like that, you got to go by the numbers, Dave, right? Now, Let's be honest. Me and you, some teams have really bad jerseys
anymore. I used to have Mike's number. I was going to congratulate him, trying to give him the show. Sorry, go ahead. No, I didn't mean to.
Some teams have really bad jerseys where it's hard to tell the numbers. And then you have a really difficult time calling the game if you go by the number and not the facial recognition.
You know what's funny is if you mentioned anybody like right now, I would have to think for a second to remember what number Eric Berry wore. Just numbers don't register with me. Body movements, right? I mean, I could figure it out, but like I have to think about it for a second. But if he ran around out there with a blank jersey on, I would say that's Eric Berry.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know how you can do that.
Yeah, I can just tell by body movement. It's so weird. I think it's from being at practice for 3 hours when they didn't. Sometimes the numbers were so. On a practice jersey were so washed out that you couldn't even see them. I think that's what it's from. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm going to say it is. All right. But I think it's a fantastic hire. I mean, I do. I feel for John. I wish he would have gotten it. He's been a good soldier for over 2 decades. But there's no knocking the hire. And going back to your Titans, just real quick, and I don't want to get caught up on the Titans. One thing that's always bugged me is why is the coach always the guy who gets fired? Mike Vrabel, I don't care what anybody says, he was a good coach. And then you had the situation. Mike Tomlin came under fire because after 12 years, he might not have his first winning season. Listen, a coach, whether it's at Tennessee or wherever, the University of Tennessee or the Tennessee Titans, is one of the cogs. Okay. So if things weren't going well at Off the Hook Sports, I would just naturally fire Caleb Calhoun because he's doing a good job. Sometimes it could be the general manager. Sometimes it could be you hired the wrong assistant coaches.
Well, they did just fire the general manager, to be fair.
Right, but they never should have fired Mike Vrabel. They had a good piece. They had a good piece in place, is what I'm saying. Like, if I went and hired 3 more people, I would make sure that you never got touched because you're a great employee.
It's funny on a broader scale, though, like particularly in the NFL, like college, I get it. You can judge coaches a lot harsher. The NFL, coaches are very much more a product of the talent that's on the team. And by the way, the NBA is coaches don't even matter in the NBA. Okay. When people are like, Phil Jackson has 11 rings. I could have won 11 rings with the players he was coaching. Okay. There was no talent required to coach Shaq and Kobe or to coach Michael Jordan.
I think he had to manage egos. I give him a little bit more credit for that.
I give him no credit.
But what's harder? Managing ego, to your point, managing egos or putting together that Pistons team that won a championship. I would rather have to manage egos like Shaq and Kobe and Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen than have to put together that group led by Chauncey Billups. I mean,
yes, exactly.
The only reason they won it that year is because the NBA was horrendous.
And they whiffed on. Well, no, they made it great. Well, they won it that year because Shaq and Kobe couldn't play together anymore, and they played them in the finals. And Shaq and Kobe kind of like the hatred went way too deep at that point. But yeah, no, I agree. I'd much rather manage egos. And so, coaching, I agree. People are way too quick to put the blame at the feet of the coaches in the NFL. College, it's a little bit easier. You can pretty much tell if a coach isn't going to work out, he's not going to work out, right? Like it's not hard, and it's not because of the talent, because the coach is responsible for getting the talent in college.
Yep, I agree. All right, coming up on the program, we were going to discuss Nico a little bit. I got asked on a radio station how we would grade him. We're going to get to that tomorrow. Again, congratulations to Mike Keith and congratulations to the Vol Network, because I'm sure this was a coup for them. I mean, you don't hear of guys leaving the NFL very often. I mean, Caleb's right. It's a great job. There's not a bad job. I do find it very interesting how you brought up the play of the team might have affected his decision. I would have never thought of that, but wouldn't you rather be a part of like a franchise, like let's say the Steelers, which I think is the best run franchise in the biz, or what the Patriots were, or any of those, as opposed to a team that is probably never going to win a Super Bowl because it's so poorly managed. And listen, it's hard to be positive sometimes. And listen, his job is not to be objective. Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Stop by and tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello. All right, with Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. Coming up, why Kim Mulkey thinks that Kim Caldwell should have never gotten pregnant. Huh? Also, we will get to, is the SEC a basketball conference? Crazy. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Amari Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Who should be the color guy?
Ooh.
Mike Keith announced as or I don't know if it's announced, but it's breaking. He is the new voice of the Vols. Who will be the color guy? Do we want to shift and do this as a topic? What do you want to do, Caleb?
Let's maybe do that tomorrow. We got to think about because I got to think about this.
Yeah, I know that Pat Ryan. Well, at least I've been told that he wasn't too crazy about continuing to do it. So I don't think it's going to be Pat Ryan. I don't know what Frank Wycheck's doing. I mean, you got to give it a shot.
I'm going to give you a break because you don't know this, but Frank Wycheck passed away, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened?
Sorry.
What happened?
I think it was a accident of some sort.
That's awful. How did I not know that?
Yeah, he.
Okay, just don't tell me. I feel awful now.
I mean, you didn't know. Accident mistakes happen. Like I made mistakes.
Awful. He's like my age. He was like my age.
Like he had Yeah, it was some sort of accident that happened. He hit his head in his home in Chattanooga.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of the Mark Eaton when he was on a bike. Remember the big 7-footer that played for the Utah Jazz? Do you remember him? Like a year ago, he was just biking, and wow.
Well, Sean Bradley was the one who got paralyzed, right? The 7-footer on the bicycle.
No, I don't know about. No.
But you're right. I'm reading about Mark Eaton now. Yeah, he passed away in 2021 because of.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Well, let's get in that tomorrow. Some possibilities that might be out there, and I'll do some digging and have some names for you. So be sure and hit that like and subscribe button. I don't ask that enough, but I greatly appreciate you doing it. And if you could turn the notifications on, if whoever wants to click in there in the chat room, I'm feeling very, shall we say, generous. By the way, Timothy said be an independent conference. We appreciate the super chat. That goes to pay for Quincy Calhoun's college fund. Now, so throw some names in there that you think should be considered as color guys. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but this is kind of interesting to me. But we'll get into it tomorrow. All righty, bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank member FDIC. Life made better. CBTN.com. The SEC is a basketball conference. That's a fact. Bank on it. Caleb, back me up.
The SEC is absolutely a basketball conference. More than football. They have nobody else. They have one team in the Final Four in football, and that team wasn't even in the SEC last year. Meanwhile, in basketball, just going every single team at some point this year in the SEC has received votes in the top 25. The worst team right now is South Carolina at 10-5. That's their record. The SEC rankings: Tennessee and Auburn are 1 and 2. That's going to change after Tennessee lost this past weekend, but the top 10 also includes Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida, and Texas A&M. So 6 of the top 10 teams are in the SEC. 7 of the top 15 when you add Mississippi State. And 8 of the top 25 once you add Ole Miss. Meanwhile, Arkansas is receiving a vote. Georgia is receiving votes. Missouri is receiving votes. And Vanderbilt's receiving votes. So 12 teams are receiving votes in the top 25 in the SEC. And right now it's projected that 13 of the 16 will make the NCAA tournament.
That's obscene. And
absolutely obscene.
And on the football side of it too, it was, you have Texas that's out there, but it really doesn't even feel like an SEC school, to be honest with you. So, Georgia did not exactly carry the banner, but again, they're asked to play an extra game. And I don't know how the money shakes out. I know they make a boatload of money for the SEC championship game, but do they make comparable money in the college football playoff? How is that money dispersed? I mean, if you have 2 teams, do you get more money? If you have 1 team, do you get more money as opposed to 0 teams? Or do you know how that's dispersed, Caleb?
I have no idea. I think you get more money based on the number of teams you get in the NCAA tournament, and it's like $2 million, and then you get like $1 million for every team that advances, goes to the conference, for every like NCAA tournament win. I guess. Does that make sense? Every NCAA tournament.
Oh, you talking about hoops? Sorry.
Yeah, in college basketball. Yeah, every NCAA tournament game that is played in, a certain amount of revenue is generated for the conference. It's like a minimum of like 1 million or 2 million or something like that.
Okay, now I have the college football playoff revenue distribution because let's be honest, nothing happens until the money meets the road, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's take a look at this. Each of the 10 conferences receive a base amount. For conferences that have contracts for the champions to participate in the Orange, Rose, or Sugar Bowls, the base combined with a full academic performance pool was approximately $79.41 million for each conference. Okay, so that tells me, all right, each conference will receive $300,000 for each of its schools when the school's football team meets the APR, which they all are now because they just make it up. A conference will receive $4 million for each team that makes the college football playoff. A conference then will receive $6 million for each team that advances to the playoff semifinal. Each conference whose team participates in the college football playoff will receive $3 million to cover expenses for each round. Okay, so you're talking about basically if you make it to the semifinal, you're bringing home $10 million to the conference. Now, let's take a look at this. Is that significant in terms of money? Caleb, it would be significant if it fell in our laps, but when we talk about hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're talking about $10 million, that's not even $1 million per team by the time you spread it out.
No, it's not.
Okay, even if two teams make it, it's like $1.2 million if I can do the math in my head. That's goofy. That needs to be adjusted. Okay. Does that seem low to you?
It does. I think I have a theory, though, on why there's such a gap and why it's so much better in basketball right now. And I want to know your thoughts on this.
Oh, okay. You change it up for me again.
Sorry. But
that's all right.
Do you think the SEC football programs put too much pressure on themselves to find like the perfect coach, and the SEC basketball programs are more willing to settle on good coaches?
That is a great point. It's not that they're more willing to settle. It's that they're more willing to be aggressive because they know that football is ultimately going to determine what they do. So like when Mike Hamilton goes to hire Bruce Pearl, who, for those that don't know, recorded a prospect and saying that he got some sort of extra benefit from, I believe, Illinois, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a no-no. Even though he was in the right, Bruce was, you just don't do that. I mean, it's just like I said earlier. I don't rip other media members unless they rip us, and Caleb got ripped earlier. So I just don't think you do that. And so he was tainted goods, even though he probably shouldn't have been. So, but Mike Hamilton can go hire him, and if he doesn't like him, get rid of him. And ultimately, people are going to say, well, at least football recruiting is going well.
Exactly. In football, they're looking for reasons to not hire a coach, and they have the checklist, right? You got to check all these boxes. In basketball, it's let's just go get this coach. If it don't work out, I'll get a new one in 3 years and call it a day. It's not a big deal. And I think there's been more. I think the pool of coaches that they're willing to hire in basketball is much larger. I mean, like, let's take Rick Barnes at Tennessee. You know, Donnie Tyndall, Dave Hart had to fire him after a year because of a recruiting scandal. Okay, fired him after a year. What does he do? He goes and gets Rick Barnes, a 60-year-old coach who was just fired by his previous job. Dave Hart's like, I don't care. He can win. He'll get us to the NCAA tournament. That's all that matters. And he goes after him. I think the lack of pressure to hire the right coaches in basketball has resulted in better coaches being hired in basketball in the SEC. I think, Dave, I don't know if you agree, but I think you would take the collection of SEC basketball coaches over the collection of SEC football coaches every day of the week.
Okay. Without Nick Saban, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he's the trump card. Do you ever play Rook, the bird?
I have not, but...
Yeah, it's like spades. It's like white people spades.
Okay. But like, look, I mean, okay, Auburn. You just brought up Bruce Pearl. Auburn was able to go and take a shot to hire Bruce Pearl after his show calls was up. They didn't care. It's basketball. Now, granted, they went for Hugh Freeze too. One has worked out a hell of a lot better than the other for them. But Chris Jans at Mississippi State, Nate Oates at Alabama. Ole Miss has gone for Chris Beard, the Texas coach who was fired because of some domestic incident. Buzz Williams at Texas A&M, who was at Marquette. Todd Golden at Florida. I mean, like, these coaches, and by the way, not all of them are national championship coaches, but I think what what SEC basketball schools accept, Dave, is you're Tennessee in football. I tell you, this coach is going to have you maybe in the college football playoff every few years, but he's not a national championship coach. You're nixing him, right? If I tell you he can't win a national title.
Yes. If you're one of the about 25 schools in the SEC and you could tell me I'm Nostradamus and he is not going to win a championship, then there are about 25 schools that you're instantly fired.
Yeah, exactly. College basketball, if I tell you this coach will have you in the NCAA tournament every year, but he's not going to win a championship, most of the schools are going to like, we'll take that outside of Kentucky, won't they?
I think it's called the Rick Barnes rule.
Yeah, exactly. It is the Rick Barnes rule. That's a great point. I mean, Arkansas with John Calipari. John Calipari's got one national title to his resume and hasn't even been out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament in 7 years. So Arkansas, like, who cares? He's going to get us NBA prospects and have us in the tournament. That's why it's so deep. The SEC's will is more willing to hire certain coaches in basketball that they won't hire in football.
Well, I can't completely disagree with you there, Caleb. As a matter of fact, I do agree. Here's the other thing, too. The one school that you have that could probably hire just about anybody they want has been incredibly aggressive with Rick Pitino. Let's take this a step further. And then they go out and get John Calipari, who obviously had some issues coming in. But let's look at some of the other guys. How about Billy Donovan? There was no guarantee that Billy Donovan was going to win 2 championships. He was kind of like a little Pitino clone. And, he was hired. It was nothing special. LSU hired Will Wade because they knew he was going to cheat. And they needed somebody to cheat, and that's just a fact.
Yep.
You can't win at LSU in basketball without cheating. That's why I know a lot of people close to Will Wade they were very disappointed that he took that job because it's common knowledge you have to cheat at LSU in basketball. So I'm trying to think of, Eddie Fogler held on to a job way too long. I mean, I guess we could go on and on. You have more freedom. You have more rope to hang yourself, I guess, if you're a basketball coach as a football coach. So the SEC is a basketball conference. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
All right, he's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Changing gears a little bit. It's been a busy day as Mike Keith named Voice of the Vols. So congratulations to him. That is super awesome. And I think it is a good get by the Vol Network, and kudos to them for being able to land him. Strong stuff. Chattanooga Mortgage, congratulations. Your home just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga, it's never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. All right, Caleb Calhoun. Will you please tell me what Kim Mulkey said about Kim Caldwell's pregnancy? Because I will tell you, when Kim Caldwell got pregnant, I had nothing to do. No, I'm kidding. When Kim Caldwell got pregnant, I thought to myself, somebody is going to say something stupid, Dave. Don't let it be you. Like you shouldn't get pregnant during the season or something stupid. That's stupid. Did it cross my mind? Yes. But, Caleb, I didn't think it would be Kim Mulkey that would say something stupid. What did she say?
Really? You didn't, given Kim Mulkey's track record? Kim Mulkey.
Well, I didn't think it'd be another woman. Let's put it that way. I thought it would be a guy and it would come across as chauvinist.
Yeah, unprompted, Kim Mulkey tried to add some comic relief when talking about Kim Caldwell at Tuesday's media availability. Just so people know, Tennessee and LSU face off Thursday night at Food City Center.
Now, here's what I was told she said. Congratulations to Kim Caldwell. I wonder who the dad is. No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead. What did dumb Kim Mulkey have to say?
Kim Mulkey goes, quote, I know she, and by the way, not asked about it. She volunteered to say this. Make this joke. Quote, I know she, any moment now, was told should have a baby. So I hope she has it right there in the middle of the game. I hope that game gets so exciting, I'll go down there and help deliver it. Pat Summitt had quite a story when she had her baby. She had to land that plane out of recruiting Michelle Marciniak, that is. So if Kim goes into labor during our game,
what's the story?
Pat Summitt had to land her plane. She was in the middle of recruiting Michelle Marciniak, and they had to land her plane because she was going into labor.
I need to reach out to Michelle Marciniak, by the way.
And then Kim Mulkey added, so Kim Caldwell goes into labor during our game. Listen, I have lots of experience. I have too. So come find me, and I'll be there to hold your hand with husband and whoever else you'll let into the room. Yeah.
Who did you let into the room when your wife, your beautiful wife, gave birth to your beautiful son, Quincy?
The question was not who I let into the room. It was if I was allowed into the room because it was a C-section. So it was a bunch of doctors.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, we had to lay down the law on the mother-in-law with my first kid. I'm in there. You're not.
Oh,
it was like that. Yeah, it was like that.
The knocked up scene?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was like. You're out. And that's exactly how.
My room, your room. Yeah. So, okay, is it tasteless? Maybe a little, but would you expect anything less from Kim Mulkey at this point?
I have to be honest with you. You know more about Kim Mulkey than I do. I just know she's a little BS crazy. That's what I know about her. And that's the last look brought to you by Dr.
Campbell. Wild outfits too.
Dr. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and on. Who hasn't?
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at CCTI.
So what do you think her goal was?
I think she was trying to make a joke, but she's such an awkward person. It didn't make sense to a lot of people. I think that's what happened right there. It was just an odd, bizarre thing to say. Of course, the person that Pat Summitt gave birth to while landing the plane also has his own experience in bizarre pregnancies.
Why? Why a random Tyler shot? I mean, is that very necessary?
It was too perfect, but also because Tyler said that he and his new wife do Bible study every night. I'm like, I love how when people commit major moral sins, all of a sudden they become so much more holier than you. And
maybe he's repenting. That seems very judgmental.
Okay, whatever.
People change. I was kind of a jerk 5 years ago. You wouldn't have liked me. It's very cocky.
Oh, you're so humble now, Dave. Anyways,
okay. What would happen? What would happen if Kim Caldwell gave birth during the game? Would you bring out? I'm just curious. Could you go to the
we're playing this scenario out.
Wait a second. Could you go to the football team and say, you know, that little tent you have for injuries? We need to borrow that. And then she could just have it on the sideline and just come right back into the game. Special moment with 18,000 of her favorite friends. Bad idea?
I mean, Dave. By the way, just so you know,
what if they had like a monster truck rally the night before? So then I'm concerned about the cleanliness for childbirth. We have to
let's say this up front. Let's give Kim Mulkey a shout out because Dave and I have wondered how to approach the Kim Caldwell pregnancy thing since it happened.
No, I haven't wondered. I just wasn't going to talk about it.
We were like, do we talk about it or not? Well, thank God for Kim Mulkey breaking the ice on breaking the water. Sorry. But thank God for Kim Mulkey breaking the ice to talk about this. So,
that was not good.
I've wondered how do we talk because I'm like it's in the middle she could give birth I think right in the heart of the season February or March. Is she gonna and at that point you got to recover. You can't really stand up and patrol sidelines or travel right after that. That's kind of a thing.
I would assume somebody's gonna stand in for her, right? I mean, she's gonna miss a game or two,
no,
right?
No, she will have to miss a few games. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. You're not supposed to like do plane travel or road travel like right up to birth or late in your pregnancy or right after you have the baby. So I mean, there's going to be like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but all I know is that it's a Kim Mulkey. That was a very. Now Kim Mulkey's put the thought in my head of Kim Caldwell giving birth on the sidelines, and I don't like the thought of someone going into labor on the sidelines.
No, I don't either. I don't. I mean, that'd be awful. You know, I will say this: there was a part of me that crossed my mind that because I was when my wife was pregnant with my son. We were in a car wreck. We were coming back from the lake and hydroplaned, and I remember I went right into the wall, like on the interstate. And the guy came up to me first thing he said, this is like a year after Dale Earnhardt Sr. died. He goes, "You look just like Dale Earnhardt Sr." I was like, "Thanks." So my wife is like 7.5 months pregnant, and it actually cracked her rib. But I have wondered, could somebody come crashing into her? It doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen in basketball as often as it does in football, where people get run over. But I have wondered, I mean, is it completely safe for her to be on the sideline? I mean, I can remember one time I was, Aaron Green crashed into me one time during an SEC tournament game. Another Arkansas player crashed into me and the Arkansas play-by-play guy who happened to be sitting next to each other. So it does happen, and that would be absolutely awful.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. I mean, that's why the number one thing is you don't want her traveling when this is going on. So, we'll have to kind of see how this plays out. I know that, I'll say this, dealing with pregnancy, she is not let it distract her from her job because she's done a hell of a first-year job as the head coach of the Lady Vols this year.
I'll tell you one thing. There's a reason that women give birth and men don't. It's because they're a lot tougher.
Well, wait a minute. Have you? But have you ever had the man cold? The man flu?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've had the flu.
People, when men are sick, they call it the man cold because they say men are like getting knocked out like way harder than women do when they get sick.
Oh, that's totally me. Yeah, I'm a whiny.
That's totally me too. The man cold is way harder than pregnancy. Man colds are way harder than giving birth. Women have it easy. I'd rather give birth than have the man cold. Also, I told my wife that, by the way. I told my wife that and she didn't appreciate it. Also, I'm like, how come
you know what's the most painful thing you've ever been through? By the way, I've been run over by a lawnmower, so I've got a point of reference.
Probably when I busted my head open on a concrete bench and had a nail go through my head. That was pretty much probably it.
Gosh, I've done worse than that in the past month.
I know. I haven't had.
See you the picture.
I haven't had many horrible things happen to me.
5 staples. I will tell you the worst pain I've ever been through, and this is supposedly the second worst pain behind childbirth, is an abscess tooth. Worse than getting run over by a lawnmower.
Really?
Oh my gosh. You couldn't eat the hydros fast enough, and it was like, and I hate those things because they make my nose itch, and I'll sit there and rub my nose. It was awful. And we couldn't see the dentist for like 5 days because coincidentally, one of my family members is my dentist, and his wife passed away during the night, the very day I had an abscess tooth. So, I couldn't see my dentist. Obviously, he was dealing with much more serious issues. But, you don't want that. And I will tell you what, I was a complete baby with an abscess tooth. But, let's keep Kim Caldwell in our thoughts and prayers. We're a spiritual.
Oh, I didn't know SEC football was Plexico Burris. No, I'm sorry, SEC football. Just making a joke.
Look at what you're talking about. You can't reference the message board without giving more. When I got shot in the foot while I was 12, holy sweet gravy.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't mean to hit. Yeah.
All right. You got shot. How'd you get shot in the foot when you're 12?
I told you Plexico Burris.
You sound Plaxico Burris. That would be nice to have Plaxico Burris on the show. No. Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Tomorrow on the program, We'll have a new special guest as we turn into basketball season. Our Mondays are going to be just absolutely hot fire. Austin Price with On 3 is going to join us on a weekly basis on Monday. Steve Hamer is going to join us as well each and every Monday. We'll visit with Dane Bradshaw next week. But tomorrow, a big show with a special guest. You won't want to miss it. So please hit the like and subscribe button. Turn those notifications on. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney.